Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we've got a video that I'm pretty excited to film. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I absolutely hate in books. So basically in this video I have my little notebook here where I've got a couple of things that I've written down about the things that I just hate seeing in books, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. This is just all books that I've read. Obviously some of these will only apply to one category versus the other. We'll get into that in just a minute. So most of the things that I've written down here are things that I've noticed in my 2019 reading. So far in 2019, I've read 20 books this year. If you're interested in knowing which books I've read, my Goodreads is linked down below, so feel free to go down there and switch on over to Goodreads and see what I've read this year so that you have an idea of kind of where some of this might be coming from. I feel like a couple of the things in here you might be able to guess what books I'm talking about that I'm just really not enjoying these aspects in. If you go and check out my Goodreads list, feel free to go over there, link in the description below. One thing that I absolutely cannot stand in books, and I've heard other people say this before as well, is the perfect doormat character. This person, doesn't matter if they're male, female, doesn't matter if they're a prince or if they're a peasant, doesn't matter what they are, who they are, whatever. Usually it's this instance of having a protagonist that is just completely and utterly useless and simultaneously perfect. They have the best mannerisms, they are attractive, they're intelligent, they're witty, they're this, they're that, but they don't actually do anything. They might be action-oriented, but they don't actually fulfill the actions to which they orient themselves. It's kind of like they'll say at some point in the story, and usually this is fiction because we're talking about protagonists, but they'll say in the story, I absolutely agree with the rebels, let's join the rebel army or whatever. But they themselves don't do a whole lot beyond joining the rebel forces. And I find that this kind of thing happens a lot in fantasy books, especially because that's where you are probably most likely to have a character who's been thrown into a situation that they're not prepared for because fantasy and magic and whatnot. So it's kind of frustrating to have a character that's just like perfect in every way. Everyone wants them, everyone loves them, everyone this, everyone that, but they don't actually have a use. They don't actually do much. Super frustrating. Number 2, the overly reactive protagonist. So if you go and check out my Goodreads and you look at some of the recent reads that I've got, you might understand who I'm mostly talking about when I say the overly reactive protagonist. But I'm just talking about those characters, again, it doesn't matter if they're male or female. Recently in YA, there's been a lot of female protagonists that act this way, where they're that really strong female character, but they're just a little too reactive, a little too snappy, a little too sassy. They're a little too quick to jump to conclusions, and that gets them into a lot of trouble. I know that that's something that writers have been using since the beginning of time to get main characters into trouble that they then have to dig themselves out of, but I'm just kind of tired of it. It can be done well, and I have read it done well. It just kind of gets tiresome after a while. I'm just a little tired of protagonists creating trouble for themselves. Does that bother anyone else? Does that feel like a little bit of a cop-out on the writing side of things? I mean, it's not good to have things just happen to your protagonist either. I feel like it needs to be kind of like a give and take, where you've got like a combination of the protagonist causing issues for themselves, or people in their lives causing issues for them, or the circumstances causing issues for them. Like, I feel like that gives a much more well-rounded story and character arc and plot and just everything. I don't know. Does that bother any of you guys when you have a character that's just so reactive and so brash that you're like rolling your eyes at them? Like, calm down. Just like, I know you've been through a lot, but calm down. Number 3, the unbelievably strong lead character. Here's the thing. If you've got a supporting character that's unbelievably strong, it's kind of cool, right? You wonder if maybe the main character will become friends with them and then they can harness that power together and whatever. If you have a villain who's unbelievably strong, even better, because it seems like everything is stacked against your protagonist. Your main character is not going to be able to kill this person or get rid of this person or talk to this person or do whatever it is they need to do with this bad person to resolve the plot. That's interesting. You know what's not interesting? When your main character is all powerful. Suddenly they're getting chased down a corridor and poof, they disappear. Why? Because their magic just came out of them at that exact moment and helped things along. I get it. Sometimes a character needs to discover powers that they didn't know they have. Sometimes it's a shock to them and that's a really good plot point. That's totally fine. Like, it's a little bit of a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's a good cliche. It's okay if it gets used every now and then. What I don't like is when an overly powerful character just has everything go right for them because they're overly powerful. Not because they're smart, not because they have good friends who help them out, not because the circumstances change in a twist of events or something, simply because they have some kind of hidden power, or they're super strong, or they're really good at fencing, or they're really good at this or that. Like, that's awesome. Good. But don't make that a fallback to be the only way that your character can get out of a difficult situation, because it just gets boring. Number 4, the bad boy romantic interest, or the bad girl romantic interest. Quite frankly, with this one, I don't care if your romantic interest is male or female or identifies as whatever they want to identify as. What I don't like here is when a character falls for the bad boy. And it's not just because like, ooh, they're mysterious and dark. It's like they're actually doing things that are not okay. Like if you have a bad boy character who's just, maybe he's a little bit aloof, or, you know, she is a little bit aloof. Maybe they're loners. Maybe they're just kind of off on their own. They're a little mysterious. They're a little shady. You're kind of unsure about them. Okay, I get it. Mystery, intrigue, you're excited by that person. That's believable to me, that a main character could fall for or be more interested in learning about somebody who's kind of off in the corner on their own, doing their own thing. Like maybe they're a little bit curious about that person. What doesn't make sense to me is when the person who they're crushing on or falling for or whatever is actually just not a good person. Either because they're emotionally manipulative, mentally manipulative, physically manipulative, whatever it is. I personally haven't read a whole lot of stories where one character is like physically beating another character, but they're in a relationship and it's like really bad. And I haven't read a whole lot of that myself, so I can't really say as far as like physical abuse goes in a relationship. I haven't read a ton of that, although I've heard that there's a lot of it around from other booktubers, and I'm not interested in reading it. But I have read a couple of stories this year where the main character is just kind of like, hey, I really like this person, despite the fact that they completely tore out my heart and threw it across the room. They're so cute. I love them. They love me so much. Like, I'm just so tired of that. But it's just not good. I just don't want to see it. Like, I get it if you're trying to make a point in the end that this person was not good for them and they learned from it and they moved on. Awesome. Great. We're all learning something here. But if you end up in a situation where the main character is sincerely and truly torn between two people for the majority of a book or towards the end of the book, and one or both of those people are just not great people, no thanks. So the last thing that I absolutely hate in books, number 5, is one that I see in both fiction and nonfiction. And that is unnecessary explanations. Oh my gosh. I get so frustrated when I am given more information than I need. I get it. You want to paint a beautiful, vivid picture of the place that your main character is walking into. Great. Awesome. Now I know what that place looks like. What I don't like is when you over-explain how the tiles on the wall are all interconnected with some kind of grout that seems to be sandy in color, but not quite. I don't care. I don't need to know. Are those bricks going to matter in the next chapter? No? I don't care. Don't tell me. I don't need to know. If I walk in and you say there were intricate brick patterns on the walls with discolored grout, that's enough. You know what that tells me? That there's bricks on the walls and that it's probably old because it's discolored. I know that I'm ranting like crazy in this video, and I'm so sorry if it sounds like I'm just complaining and being really snarky, I guess. But I just get so frustrated, and this happens in nonfiction as well. This happens all the time in nonfiction where a concept is being explained to you. You're in a nonfiction reading environment to probably learn something, and so you go in there and you feel like you have to read everything because otherwise you'll miss vital information because nonfiction. And you just end up getting paragraph after paragraph explaining this one concept that's very simple, and it's like, I don't need to hear this. I don't need this. Just the same way that when a character walks into a new room in a fiction story, I don't need to know that there's a tiny little stain on the carpet that I don't care about. If that stain's not going to come up later in the story, I don't care about it. I don't need to know about it. If that stain is a huge plot point later on, great. Let me know what the stain is like. But you don't have to tell me every single little thing about the stain. You don't have to tell me that it's blue speckled with green. You don't have to tell me that it's kind of near the window, but not quite. Maybe it was a couple of feet back. They couldn't tell. But you don't need to tell me that. I don't need all the extra. Just find a clever way to present the information to me so that I remember it, but don't fixate on it, because if you are using that information dump to tell me that that's going to be important later on, then it's just blaringly obvious and frustrates me, because it's like, okay, well, obviously that's going to be important later on. And then if it doesn't come up later on, if you spent a page and a half, 2 pages telling me about the stain on the floor near the window, and it doesn't come up, I'm going to be at the end of the book going, so why did I sit through 2 pages reading about this very intricate stain on the floor? Like, was it blood? Was it fruit juice? Was it paint? Does it matter? Point is, over-explanation to me is one of the biggest frustrations that I have in reading. And unfortunately, it's found all across different types of literature, be it fiction, nonfiction, whatever. It's super frustrating and it drives me nuts. That's all I've got for you guys today. Those are the 5 things in books that just absolutely drive me crazy. I hope that this video didn't seem too complainy or too snarky or too whatever. I'm a little hopped up on caffeine right now, so that might be why my personality is coming out a little bit more. I also just get really heated about some of the things that I talked about today, because it's just a lot of the things have to do with characters, and it's like either nobody should have to behave this way all the time, or nobody should have to be treated this way all the time, and it's frustrating to see a lot of this stuff happening in books. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below. Do you agree with me on any of these points? Are there other things, maybe, that you've seen in books that you absolutely hate? Bookish pet peeves. So let me know in the comments below if there's anything like that you want to discuss. I'll definitely be taking a look at the comments after this video, because I'm very curious to see if other people think similarly to me, or if maybe they have some points to bring up that I didn't mention in this video. Anyways, guys, as always, my social media links are down in the description below. I've got Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads down there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye. And then they discovered this new power that they had, and suddenly everything was fine. They were back in their bedroom and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but that also didn't really solve anything, so... Alright, I get it. You can do everything.